and let's rock and roll. It's a
Rock and
yo.
roll.
So, Lars, should I address you as Lars or should I not?
Yeah, Lars is fine. Swamiji, he often called me Lars. Like that's a familiar name. But my spiritual name is Vishuddhanath.
Hmm.
Uh, or actually, the last name he gave me was Valmiki, and I'm thinking about using that in the future
Okay.
because it's easier to understand. Vishuddhanath,
Eh,
nobody really gets it unless they are trained in the Sanskrit master program. Kind of. So Valmiki is easier, but Lars is even easier to.
Okay, well, I'll just kick off as Lars then.
Yes.
Welcome to a Curious Yogi podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. It's a great delight and honor to be on your show.
Yeah, it's been a super fun project, and like I was just saying, it's been something that kind of helps keep the space bright for me just to have concentrated conversations with other yogis or sadhaks or seekers that are into churning the deep stuff. So I know you're that guy that loves to also churn and discuss the highest knowledge. So I think we're gonna fly.
Absolutely, already can feel takeoff.
Awesome. So I think it's always great just to start for the listeners. Like if we think who is listening to this podcast, it's Curious Yogis, and I always think it's nice to not give your life story, but just to shine a little light into what brought you onto a spiritual path. It's so rare that someone dedicates their life to living this knowledge and being a meditator like you have. So, in
Yeah,
a,
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, I love to tell that story because it's a really great story. I think about how my parents were looking for a master. Like I don't even know if they knew it was like a guru master, but they were looking for direction and knowledge. And in the 60s, they were and early 70s, they were like trying to figure out where could we get like deeper answers. So they stumbled upon this mystic philosopher called Gurdjieff, and he already passed in the late 40s. So they contacted his direct disciples, and they started like this Gurdjieff group in Norway with some friends, and they were meeting every weekend, and they were doing different spiritual exercises, and they were running like kind of like mindfulness work. They called it conscious work. They were supposed to watch themselves as they were doing ordinary tasks, and then after a while, they stumbled upon a disciple of Swami Sham, our common guru, and my mother saw a picture of his in the meditation room, or in meditation room in London in 1979, and she had an opening that lasted for a couple of hours. She was just totally recognizing him, and she was crying and she was laughing, and it was like apparently really wild. And then she knew that I have to meet this guy. So then she started to plan this whole operation to go down and meet him in the Himalayas, which was very rare for like a Norwegian kind of housewife to do. But she was a Shakti, and she managed to go there and send her husband down there, and then eventually they wanted to, and then they found out like this is a real guru. He knows, like these guys know, he knows uh, the way out of the human predicament, and they wanted to have the blessing of us meeting him. So when I was 12 in 81, I met Swamiji with my brothers, and we connected with him as children, and that was fine. Like he was like the most glorious grandfather figure we ever met. He told these amazing stories. He played with us. We had so much fun with him, like really so much fun. So we instantly also recognized him. So we started to quote in whatever little knowledge we got. We just started to follow Swamiji's knowledge. So we, when we were quarreling about something, I have to share a piece of chocolate. We remembered Swamiji said, like with your brothers, you should share equally. And then immediately, yeah, Swamiji said it. That's the truth. So we also kind of recognized him as Satguru. And then after high school, I moved there to start my more kind of serious studies with him. And that was just amazing because that like I was pinching myself when I was realizing that he had created a place where you could do sadhana or the work you need to do on yourself to realize your full potential, to find your true identity, full time, like a whole school of wisdom. And that is really such an amazing, a glorious thing because the world we all know, like society, life in society, it is really catching. It's designed to kind of catch or steal our time. So there's so little time to do sadhana, to do the meditation, the work of going inside, and you do a little in the morning, then you go to work, and then maybe in the evening again, unless you're too tired, and then maybe in the weekend you have enough energy to do something, and then again the Monday comes. So like the whole system is it's kind of hard to be yogi in that system. You really have to, it's a struggle. It's a struggle, you know, like you're a part-time sadhak or a practitioner on this path. But Swamiji had such a force, such a conviction that he should just create a space in the world where we could full time study it. And that was just amazing what he had created. So,
Hmm.
I mean, what we have to try to create that space ourselves. And he gave so much advice about that also. Like he said, he acknowledged money is important, you know. He said money is the feet of Lakshmi. They're kind of holy. And they can buy you freedom to do sadhana. So you shouldn't sort of like deny the power of money. He said, you know, like whatever you have to do to earn money, do it. And then he said, otherwise, build a meditation room and sit in it, unless you have to go and make money. He wrote that to me in a letter when I was 18. And that's still such a perfect piece of advice. So yeah, that's what I still have to scramble, you know, to get money for this and that. It's like and as long as we have a body, as long as we are in this material world, we have to do something, and we just do it. But we know that even though our body mind is dependent upon the world, the self is free, and that's like the point of knowledge here that actually we are free, whatever we do. And that is the sadhya of sadhana. The goal of sadhana is to know that there is actually a state which you are right now, in which you're not
Hmm.
dependent on anything that happens in the gunas.
Mm. I think it's an interesting point to remember is that like exactly that you're saying that we're always free because it's so, the mind can think of things so in polarities. Like to do sadhana, then I have to find my guru and go to the Himalayas and be in that perfect ashram environment. But you yourself have lived in that way, but you've also been a father and a husband and a householder and a business owner. And to be in the world and not be sort of bound by the world, to me seems
Yeah,
like a part of the
yeah,
sadhana as well, making the whole life sadhana.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's that is our tradition actually, that we are not trying to escape from the world or deny the world or remove ourselves from the world or try to find a cave and kind of like leave the world. It's not possible. the world is everywhere. It will follow you into whatever cave you seek shelter. So how do you do it? Like you have to work with this incarnation, and we have to actually include everything in that understanding, that we are the self, and nothing can uh, take that away from us. It's not like the world has no power over the self, but it seems like that. And that is the root problem of everything, is avidya, or ignorance. That's how the whole uh, sort of a situation of suffering starts, because we think that we are the nama rupa, the nam rup, which Swamiji called it, like the body and the mind. That is how they refer to the human being, both in Hinduism and Buddhism, nam rup. And name and form, that's not a true identity. That is like how we appear, how we participate in this world. That is the instrument. We are here in the body, and through the senses we relate to the world, we perceive it, and then we uh, organize all our perceptions in the mind. And then there is the ego there who says, I am the body and the mind, and I am here, and I'm having this experience, I'm having this life, I have a past, I have a future, it's certain thing I want. And that is the human side of us, which is the human incarnation, which is called the deha in the Gita. It's called the body with the mind. And then there's the dehi, and the dehi is the one who is in the body. The dehi is the self. So sadhana is just about knowing the difference between the deha, the body, and the dehi, or the embodied being. And the dehi has this as a total bonus. It's actually not a problem or curse to be a human being. It is like this wonderful opportunity to express the embodied being through the body. And you're doing it, like totally. And your heart really just wants to do that, because that is the purpose. That is like sadhana, is to realize the embodied being, the dehi in the deha, and know the difference. Like I tell people I meet in various forums that it is just to know what you are and what you have. This human incarnation is something we have. It is not what we are. And that is the avidya part, the ignorance part, that we mistake what we have from what we are.
Mm.
So when this body will fall away, it can go sick anytime, and it eventually it will disintegrate, and then for the embodied being, for the self, is absolutely no difference. Like it's a non-event, a non-incident, makes no difference, because it is just like you're throwing away some old worn out shoes. It's no sadness in that. You'll get new shoes if you want.
Mm.
So if you have that sense of the immortal being, then this is just like a bonus to have a mortal body, and we can talk to each other, and that's the whole point, that we can talk about this knowledge, actually.
Mm. Okay, I've got a couple of questions that are popping up. So
Okay.
when when we're thinking, okay, what is sadhana? Because, I know that many of the listeners and many people that are even, practitioners of yoga or meditators, they think kind of sadhana, spiritual practice, or kind of is
Yeah.
something, but how I'm kind of hearing you say it is a kind of a practice of remembering ourselves as that embodied being. And then my next question is, like, what are the ways that we reach there? Is it through meditation, through the guru, through the satsang, or is it many of these pathways, whatever illuminates that awareness within the seeker, within the jigyasu?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, you know, I really, you can start from either end. You know, you can start from being a human being, being a doer, trying to achieve something on the spiritual path. And then it's a process and it will take forever, or it can take forever. And then you kind of like, the idea is that you purify, you make yourself sattvic, you follow the yams and the niyams, and you like very methodically follow all the rules of the Ashtanga yoga path, and like you start with the in the beginning, and then in the end, hopefully you will end up in samadhi and moksha. You know, you can think like that, but our guru was this kind of supreme kind of guru. You know, he was not talking from a textbook or as an instructor. He was just basically saying, you are that already. And you have to just dig that until it becomes your reality. And he was just saying, like, you are not the illusory being. You are the self. You're actually unborn. You are not incarnated now. I mean, that's how blown it is. I said, you know, like, this is my incarnation, blah, but it's not true, really. Like, if you take the absolute viewpoint, there is no Lars. Lars is a total dream figure. That's like my reality as a dream figure. And Swamiji made that very clear to me, because he told me that, like, for me, the guru, the illusory mind intellect of Lars is completely unreal. So I was like kind of shocked to hear that, like, whatever I'm understanding and thinking, that doesn't exist for the guru. And the guru is me, you know, like the guru is the highest self. That is like me speaking. So then it was kind of hard to go back and believe that whatever I believed in was had any value or reality. So that is the highest viewpoint, like you're unborn. The change is not real, like this whole field of Prakriti. It's not real. It is just the self who's real. And Swamiji was often like using an example to explain how that is. And he said, compare it to deep dreamless sleep. There's no I there. There's no world, no thoughts, no feelings. There's no sense of time or place. When you wake up, the only thing you remember is that everything was fine. You say, I slept well, you know? So the only thing you actually experience in that state is anand, as we call it, or deep, deep bliss. And waking state, when we wake up, we project this whole universe so powerfully. Like the mind has such a powerful ability to project a whole universe. Like the moment we wake up, it's like, oh, it's all there. But just like a second ago, it was nothing there. And we believe it's so hard, so like adamantly that it's here. But it's not. It was just now, it was not there. So sadhana is actually to remember that deep bliss, that formless state of the self, immortal, unborn, and dying, while you're having this illusory, imaginative reality of being a human being. And
Mm.
if you can do that, that would be the fast track to succeed in sadhana. Because I was actually in another podcast just last week, and we were talking about a little bit about it's called yoga bubble, and we were talking about the same thing in Norwegian, and the questioner he said, well, I'm kind of not ready for nirvana yet. I really enjoy the process of reaching there. You know, I enjoy the sadhana too much. And it can be enjoyable. It can definitely be. It's like a lot of bliss and sattvic pleasures in on the path. And then I said, well, as long as you want it to be a process, it will be a process. You can postpone like self-realization for as long as you want. And the ego really wants you to postpone. It's like geared for you to postpone that moment. But I also quoted something Swamiji said once. I was waiting on the stairs of the ashram back in the 90s sometimes, and then he was walking up the stairs, and somebody stopped him and asked, like, how long does it take to reach self-realization? Does it take like such a long time? Like, what's how many years do you have to be in this ashram? And then Swamiji said, he was thinking for a second, and then said, if you really want to be free, you can be free right now. And I thought that was so wonderful. Like so sadhana, in a way, it's like it's what you want it to be. Sadhana is the process and the goal, or the sadhya, the goal of it, the destination is to know that there is no sadhak, there is nobody practicing, there's no practice, there's no goal. You know, the self is just there, and
Mm.
that it's just like an awakening. Like my academic interest also has been to study how and what happens inside the mind of the awakened being. Like what is awakening doing to the mind? How does it happen? So I was studying early Buddhism, and I was also studying Swamiji because he's like a living Buddha, a living awakened one. And I found it so interesting. And it seems that they all struggle, like whoever is awakened, they do a lot of sadhana, and they really struggle also. But uh, the final step cannot be an effort on your side as a human being. You cannot forcefully create that final awakening. It is like you can purify and you can do everything, and you can like do sadhana vehemently for a long time. But at one point, it is something that opens up in you. It's like it comes from inside. For Swamiji, he had been doing sadhana for a long time, and in the end, he just sat down on his hotel bed and just meditated. And at that time, he said something opened inside of him. There was an eye that opened in his mind, and that eye never closed again. So, and Buddha had the same kind of experience. Like he was meditating and meditating, and he was doing a lot of penitences, and he was not eating well. Like he was really like pushing himself so hard. And in the end, when he was sitting there, he just went deeper and deeper and deeper, and he saw his past lives. He saw the past lives of everybody else, and then in the end, he just watched how the so-called bad influences, the asavas, they just left his mind. The ignorance, desire, just the grasping for the human life, the desire to be human in itself, bhava, that left as he was watching. And then he realized, oh, I'm free. This is my last incarnation. I'm not bound in this human predicament anymore. And then he also realized that once that awakening has happened, you can never return. The same as Swamiji said, like the eye of knowledge opened and it never closed again. So because once you have woken up from the dream, the illusion of being a human, like a born human being, an individual separated from the whole, once that has happened, there is no way back. So that's like asking about sadhana. That's the goal of sadhana. that awakening, where you understand that the ego being is absolutely not who you are.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said that like the sadhana is however you want it to be. And really like as long as I'm thinking like I'm a individual attached to my separateness, sadhak or yogi, whatever identifier I put on it, whether it's sattvic or not, if it's crystallizing that sense of an individual me as a lasting thing that needs to be held on to, then it's going to keep me contracted in here. But then
Yeah.
when you were speaking, I was somehow like thinking about the practice or I guess it is a practice, the state of vivek, like that practice of discerning, like between
Yeah.
that which is unchanging and that which is changing. Would you say that that's like a kind of part of sadhana is starting to view the world or view the waking state with that lens of turning towards the truth or the unchanging state and turning as if away from the changing illusory state? Like, can you make that a little more clear for us?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to criticize actually doing traditional sadhana based on all the rules. I mean, we have done all of that. And they say in Patanjali that if you want to reach Nirod, like the state when the thoughts calm down or they cease to be, and you're like in a meditative state and can go into the deeper samadhis. To do that, you have to have abhyasa and vairagya. And abhyasa means practice. You have to do it again and again. And they say if you do it like a very powerful practice, like a lot of it, the result will also be much greater. So, like throw yourself at it. And then you have vairagya, which is really important because it means dispassion. And it means that you don't want anything else than realizing who you are. And there are so many other pathways available to us as human beings. You have just like education, career, earning money, building a material reality for yourself, house, cabin in the mountains, cabin by the sea. Like there's no end to how much you can amass in this world of the kind of material wealth and so-called security. And children, like there is no end to all the things a human being can want for himself on that level. But you need to have a ragya towards that. Like you have to not want that. You have to want finding yourself more than all the other venues that are open to us as human beings. So that is important. Like otherwise you won't even do sadhana because you're so busy like playing with your toys or whatever, like so that's very important. But when you talk about sadhana, I talk about sattva because like we are caught in the material world, which is full of the three material energies, tamas, rajas, and sattva. And the yogi is trying to sattwify, is that the English word even? Like to become sattvic, on all levels. And that's what I'm telling people I meet who are interested in this work. I say, you have to turn to sattva, because even though sattva, or the purity, the goodness, the light, the lightness, the balance, the better kind of energies, the clarity. It is lightness of the body, purity of the body. It is clarity of mind. You get all the fog and the various like lower energies out. You have to actually go through sattva to come to get to sat, or the true being, to truth. So if you want like what you call like a thumb rule, a rule of thumb, when
Mm.
it comes to sadhana, go for sattva. You can eat in a sattvic way, You can sleep in a sattvic way. You can probably walk in a sattvic way. You can think in a sattvic way. You can be together in a sattvic way. Like, go for sattva, because sattva will purify your nervous system and make you ready for kundalini openings. Like, it will make you ready to carry those higher energies. And it will purify your mind. It will create clarity. And that clarity is so important, because it becomes something called like transparency. It'll be clear as a crystal, and then the light of the self can shine through you. Otherwise, if your head is full of tamas, it is like a cloud. It's like a dark veil in there, and your higher being will never shine forth. It will not become apparent to you. But if you go for sattva, like they say in the Gita, Nitya Sattva Sto, eternally be established in sattva or beingness. And then when you do that, and it could take years, like, but just keep doing it, and then in the end, the light of the self it shine through you. There is no resistance anymore. And then you are not an ego even. You're like a non-doer, and everything is just happening in a wonderful way by itself, because you enter the great flow of life, and the universe is just doing exactly what it needs to do. And you're not resisting, because you're just established in yourself. You're just shining. So a lot of light there at the end of the sadhana process.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's like, I'm listening and I'm agreeing with you, and at the same time I'm like always have this like devil on the shoulder that's like, yeah, but because it's like, yes, we move towards the sattvic qualities in the way that we move through the world, which like actually makes having this body and mechanism much more delightful and joyful, and also makes the
Yeah.
sadhana more wonderful. But then my question is like, then ultimately, like you were saying before, that this we have to transcend even the sense of sattva, even the highest of the gunas, but ultimately self-realization is it not even transcending beyond even the goodness of the yogic way.
Yes, exactly. That's a great point. Very subtle point, very advanced point. But my last kind of shocking realization when I was with Swamiji just before he left the body, I felt that just a couple of weeks before he left in 2017, I was, I kind of like managed to get there somehow. And I was feeling something that happened when I was there, and I just felt that his guru fire was so strong, so intense, that I felt that whatever was remotely human in me, like form, ego, something, it was just burning. I could feel like my back was kind of burning. It was so intense. And Swamiji was blowing everybody's mind. He was really like, the heads were rolling in those last satsangs, and people came up and gave great speeches, full of knowledge, and like, and he was just kind of like dismissing them and said, you're not getting it, kind of like, go to the back row, like, leave, you didn't like, uh, and it seemed like, what's going on here? And then I realized that, like, we had cultivated a certain ideal of being a yogi, a sattvic being, and people had been doing it for like almost 50 years in some cases. We had all tried, and we had a certain way of giving a speech, a certain way of, like, just being yogis, being devotees of the guru. But in those last few satsangs, I kind of just understood that too is something we have to give up. You know, like we are actually nobody. Like I felt that like that is actually like the goal of this process is to realize that you are not the form. You're nobody. You are not even like this sattvic yogi. That's just kind of spiritual materialism. And it's the it's the ego who has fooled us yet again and just made another wonderful form to identify with. It's the same mechanism of attachment. You can attach to anything, and then I thought like that is such a relief that we are
Mm.
nobody, because otherwise you have to uphold this image, this being, who has to live according to these sattvic standards. And we don't have to actually do anything. We are just nobody. It's nothing, no thing. Really, that's what it means. So after that, I don't know what to call me myself even, or like what my ideal is, but I just I just know that the guru, uh, he gave us that knowledge that we are unborn, that we are nobody on this level, and we don't even we have to go through sattva to realize, as you said, to realize that we are beyond sattva even.
Mm. Wow, that's so like I don't know what the word is, like I want to say inspiring, but it's kind of like just not even inspiring, but to think to have the teaching or the direct space, the direct vision of the guru that's sort of like, cutting the heads of the ego right off and ultimately liberating the devotee, liberating the seeker, saying, this is not who you are. Like whatever you're most attached to, which is showing how much you know after a lifetime of study and how much you've got it, and then guru saying, no,
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
haven't got it. So it is liberating, and and yet it feels like still there's something within the mind of the human being that says, I want to get it. But like you're saying, I'm never going to get it with this mechanism which creates the bondage. So how to get free? Is it just offering your head on the chopping block of the guru's feet? Like, here's my head, like take it. Or is it like, offering like Arjun to Krishna, like you're my charioteer, like I put my action in your hands and the result is for God. Like what in practicality, how do we do it out here in the world?
yeah. I know, and like the guru is inside everybody. It's like just another name for the self. So all the knowledge we need is already inside. We just have to access it. So we have to remove the veil of ignorance. And so the question is really, how do you do that? And can you do it alone? Well, you can, Of course, who else is going to do it? I mean, it's only you who can do it. And the answer again is meditation. I mean, if you're lucky enough to meet a guru outside of yourself, who can do the work for you, jolly good. And eventually, I'm sure in some incarnation that Satguru will show up and help you along. And maybe he has done it before, even like in the past life. We don't know. But their meditation is the way. Meditation is the only exit from this grand world illusion. Because when you still the mind, when you concentrate the mind, and you create almost like with your concentration, like a laser beam who burns a hole in the fabric of time and space, and you exit through that hole that which you create yourself. But you can, so you have to kind of like figure out, how can I find a good sadhana practice in my life, a meditation practice. And I always recommend people, if you can't find like a real guru, find the next best thing, which is sattvic friends, or satsangis as we call it. because it's so powerful to meditate together with somebody else. I say that, like, if you meditate, or my experience is that if you have one other person and you meditate together, it's like 10 times better than meditating alone. It's something, don't you agree? It's something about it, because you have that back. I don't know. There's like, together we enter the space of meditation. So try to organize a satsang group, meditate. I have done it in Oslo now. We meet once a month, and it's just so powerful. It keeps us going for the whole month. It's really amazing. Um, so that's my suggestion. And then, of course, surrender. But meditation is surrender. Like when you go inside, you basically surrender your whole nam rup into the absolute space. That's what you do. You let go of the sense of I am the body, I am the mind, I am Bobby. But Bobby will never disappear. You will always be there, and that light which you are, it will always shine. So you just have to allow it to shine.
Mm.
That is why the yogis have to follow the path of sattva,
Mm.
because that the light shine.
I think you said a really good pointer word there, that we have to allow the light to shine, which means allowing the mind to sort of be absorbed back into that space, which happens only in meditation. We can't let the mind be absorbed back into the space when we're riding on the bicycle during the rush hour here in the city. Well, maybe you can, but like
Yeah,
the actual concentrated dedicated practice of just closing your eyes every day. It's like if the sincerity and the desire for freedom is really there, then the step. Also, I think one time didn't Swami say that self-realization is faster than stepping over the hoof of a cow? Like it's there. We just close the eyes, and
yeah,
that's where we will experience that opening, even if it's only for enough
yeah,
to bring us some relief when we come back into the world. But ultimately, that's the practice that will bring us there, like lift the veil.
absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. And when I was a young man, I was struggling with my mind when I was in Kulu, and I wanted my mind to go away because it was disturbing my meditation, and I thought, I'm not the self; it's just mind there, and it seemed to be really like so dense and stubborn. So I asked Swamiji, like, what should I do with this mind? How can I transcend it or transform it? Like, what should I do? And Swamiji said, uh, you like, the mind is supposed to be a mind. That's the function of the mind is important. Like, we can't actually operate without the mind. It has a practical purpose. It's called the sixth sense in the Indian traditions, and it's the sense that organizes the input and the data that comes from the other senses. That's the job, like it coordinates and organizes. So like, don't be too hard on your mind in that way. You have to know that, like, you're not angry with your leg because it's kind of walking around, or the fingers or that's what they are. But you have to know that you are not the mind, and you can also change your mind. You can, like, improve it or purify it or change it, just like you can cut your hair. But the hair is supposed to be the hair. That's what Swami said. Like, you're supposed to have hair on your head, like, but you can cut it a little bit. And the same with the mind. You can do some modifications. You can calm it. You can maybe make it a little more sattvic and stuff, but you actually need the mind. So the problem is how we relate to the mind.
Mm.
Like, we have to know that we are not the mind. We never stop being the self, even though the mind is active. And so it's just like going back in your understanding, and detaching yourself from that idea that I am whatever is going on in the mind with thoughts and emotions. And then you're just carried into all the states that the mind is going through. So
Mm.
even what I'm trying to say is that even though the mind is active, you're still the self. Otherwise, you'd never become the self if you're waiting for the mind to go away or totally disappear. Then you'll never be the self. You're the self now. Of course you are. Of
Mm. Mm.
course, you know.
Mhm. Would you say that it's like the more that we step into that space of meditation, the more that we practice sadhana with our eyes closed in that concentrated way, making friends with the mind, if you will, then the more that we
Yeah.
do that practice, the more that when we open the eyes, that vision
Absolutely.
of it
Yeah,
starts to permeate into the whole way we
totally.
relate in the waking state. But
Totally. That's
mm,
like the whole thing.
mm,
Totally. It's like it just like uh comes through completely. I remember I had spent like a wonderful visit to Kulu, a couple of weeks with daily satsangs, and we had like this wonderful farewell with Swamiji. He took us into one of his sort of like towers, and we were just like in that amazing space with the guru. And then we flew down to Delhi, and then me and my brother, older brother, we sat down in a restaurant, and then before the meal came, we just closed our eyes for a minute, and then when we opened the eyes again, we both said like loud, like there's no difference. Like there's absolutely no difference between like meditation and kind of waking state. Because, and that's exactly the point you made, that when you are established in the state of yoga, of oneness with yourself, and you're not resisting your own Satchid Anand nature, and the light is just shining through your whole being, then there is no difference between kind of like formally doing sadhana and just being somebody doing whatever, as a human.
mhm,
There is absolutely no difference. Like it's not dependent upon anything in the world. It's just shining and shining. So very true. It's like opening that space, and I like a an idea from Buddhism. It's called the luminous mind theory, Prabhasvara Chitta, and it says that the nature of the mind is just light and purity, clarity, and then it has been defiled by ignorance and so forth. And when those defilements leave, the mind is just shining. I mean, we are light by nature, and the nature of our mind is also light, and the ego, it's also just light. So when the kind of like the impurities are gone, which is not our true nature, then it will just be amazing to be a human being also. It improves being human so much by going to the source.
mm. Yeah, I definitely feel that in my own life to see like the way I perceive the world now compared to before, as if I started becoming a daily meditator.
Yeah.
Like, but sometimes it does feel like a kind of, it's not a quick fix, and yet it is a quick fix, It's like slowly, slowly the
Yeah.
mind starts to expand, and yet there is a kind of immediate sense of like that sense of just being home within oneself happens there then we when we practice the turning in of the senses.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's very powerful to do pratyahara, or kind of closing off the senses. And because you get just tired if they are active all the time. So to be yogi also means to know some techniques to let things rest, to work with the energy, the pran. It's I did a lot of pranayama when I was younger, and I'm very happy about what I did because I can see now it helped me. So, and I think people should just explore sadhana and find their own way to
Mm,
uniquely express their spiritual life. and there are so many things you can go into and focus on, and everybody has a little different tastes and interests, and that's just, I think that's just wonderful to find your own. That's kind of like what makes it interesting to be a yogi,
Mhm.
that like you find your path. I really went into like the scriptures, the shastras. I spent many years learning Sanskrit and reading, and I was really crazy about that. But other people will find other ways to express the same thing, really. And in the end, we kind of like all come to the same point of just being free. Like we are by nature free, and that freedom is eternal, and it's common for all. It's like the nature, the true nature of everyone
Mm.
can be realized.
Well, I definitely feel we've reached the point of freedom
Yeah.
here in our short satsang talk.
Yeah.
So I always finish the episodes with three quick final questions. Are
Okay.
you are you ready there? You're gonna blast them off. So the first one is describe your personal sadhana in 3 words.
Satyam Shivam Sundaram.
Oh, wow. That's good. That might be the best one I've heard yet, Lars. That was powerful. Nice. Because this just translates to truth, beauty, and goodness, right? Or what's the,
Yeah.
yeah,
True bliss, beauty.
truth, bliss, beauty. Beautiful. Um, a scripture that's currently inspiring your practice or your go-to scripture text.
Yoga Sutra. I'm translating it into Norwegian now, so I'm like Yoga Sutra early and late. Yeah.
Okay.
Very
Wow.
inspiring.
Amazing. So you already translated the Gita then into Norwegian.
Yes.
Now you're
Yeah.
doing the sutras.
The Yoga Sutras into Norwegian. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Great. So for any Norwegian listeners out there, stay
Yeah.
tuned. And then finally, sum up this conversation in one sentence.
Sorry, I got
Yeah.
distracted. There was a message that popped up on my screen. What did you say?
The final question is describe this conversation in one sentence.
Total joy. But you,
Agreed.
I guess you will just cut this away. But it's so nice to be with you, Bobby. You're such a exuberant, blissful space. It's like really amazing. I'm so high now. I'm always high, but now I've been sort of like having you for myself, like kind of like, or concentrating on you for an hour. Really such a, I mean, you're a great satsangi. I wish you could just be a satsang guru and didn't have to do all those kind of like hatha yoga stuff. But I mean, you have to
Me
do that too.
too.
But I mean, I really think that you have such a great guru space about you. And Garima actually, it means guru. It's
Hmm.
the same. It's the same root as guru.
Well, I definitely feel the same after hanging out with you, Lars. It's so fun to have satsang together and just like
Yeah,
meet in that space, exactly like you said before, how we can do the sadhana out on
yeah,
our own. You can do the sadhana when you're chopping the wood. I can do the sadhana when I'm at the yoga studio. But to
yeah.
do it together with like in that guru space is like there's nothing like it. There's really not.
Yeah, yeah, you're really amazing. I knew it kind of, but it's just like you're such a pure satsang being. So we should really like just have satsang every now and then. Maybe we
I
should have a
think
little Zoom group or something. I
that
don't
would be
know.
good.
I know you're busy,
Definitely.
but like this is really valuable.
I
Very,
think
very,
so.
very
Simon
valuable.
also likes to have satsang too, so
Yeah,
yeah.
amazing.
Super
But
cool.
yeah, we will meet. I will definitely try to come down and see you guys.
You should
Uh,
come.
at-
Like we can see
but
if we
when are
can
you
get
going to
a
India? Yeah,
we're gonna
sorry.
be I was gonna say if if you did come down here, even with your girls or something, but we could try to get a satsang happening here. If
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You could invite all your yoga friends kind of over, and have we can have a lot of fun. Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to India at the end of February, beginning of March.
Okay, so I'm just going to India now, and I don't know how long I'll stay, but maybe I'll be there in March also, or parts of
Mm.
March.
Yeah,
Definitely, I'll stay.
it's kind of wild, yeah, because my parents are coming, but just for 1 week to Kulu. So,
You sound a little bit worried about that, or?
well, it's gonna be good. It's just like a lot, and then like 2 weeks we're hosting retreat and like half in Dharamsala, half in Kulu. So it's gonna be a different Kulu experience for me of like being the guide, where usually it's like my time. So,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
shifting with the
yeah,
new roles, and
yeah,
all my worlds colliding. My Swedish boyfriend, my Canadian
yeah,
parents in
yeah,
IMI, like,
yeah, yeah,
ugh.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I understand that's going to be a lot, but I'm sure it's going to be completely delightful with
Yeah.
your parents also. They've never been there, I guess. Never.
No, they are
No.
not meditators really. So we're gonna meditate a few times to
Okay.
get their toes wet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, and your girls are good. Otherwise, everything's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. They're we're actually tomorrow we're going to Kiel on a little ferry trip,
Mm,
and it's sort of like a Christmas happening. And then it's going to be just like Christmas here and Christmas there. Visiting Leif, my father in Sweden one day, and just hanging out at the farm. And then I go to India on the 2nd of January. So it's going to be a very busy time ahead for
mm.
sure. Really wanting, I'm just going to hang out in Goa with Sinya and Aika.
How long are
Uh,
you going to be there for?
well, we are like they want to be there for a month. That sounds like a long time, but maybe we'll have fun. But we're going to
Cool.
Kulu. When we are done with Goa, we'll just go to Kulu. So
Yeah.
that's the plan.
Cool.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, you had a
Well,
long day, sweetie. It's amazing that you had energy to do this podcast, but I felt it was a good flow, good satsang flow. Yeah,
definitely. I know like the hardcore podcast listeners, they're super into satsang, so they'll love it.
that's great. What I realized is that people want to hear about like our life with Swamiji because they want to know about Swamiji. They want to hear what the guru says, and how we
Hmm.
interact with him. So that's interesting to talk about the guru, and Swamiji gave so much knowledge at so many points in so many people's lives, and that's like wonderful stories, satsang
Hmm.
points for
Hmm.
for everybody to be inspired. You know,
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too because like we can always relate to each other, which is why it's so important that we have each other. Like even you tell sharing the story of being, in your teenage or early 20s
yeah,
and you're struggling with your mind. Well,
yeah,
anybody that's seeking or, disillusioned with the world can relate to I suffered with my mind. So when Guru speaks to you, Guru speaks to all the devotees. So
yeah,
it's like we so can learn from each other's moments. Even me, like I only had 3 trips with Swamiji, but I feel like I've had infinite potential to
yeah,
learn from everybody else's personal
yeah.
interactions.
It's amazing that you showed up in Kulu.
Just from the last tail, I grabbed it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
on my first trip, he said something like I always just keep it with me. Like I was feeling kind of down about having to leave, and I only was there for 3 months. And he said, "Your 3 months here is like 300 years." So I'm just like, yes, like
Oh,
I
that's
always,
so nice. Oh,
yeah.
that sounds like Swamiji, 100%. No, but it's true because like also like I think Aika, she was there like once or something, like
Mm,
almost nothing. But when she was there, when she came, Swamiji said, "Now all my disciples have come." You know, he said
wow.
that. And then he closed sort of like off that the Sangha was closed in a way. So like whoever came in, like you were totally a part of it and you were meant to come, and it was the perfect time to come
Yeah,
because like
it was.
there was so much bullshit back in, don't quote this on the net, but like in the 70s, it was so much basic purification going on that, like it's the later you came, the better a yogi kind of you were. You understand what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
like coming late is actually in this party, that's like a really good sign because
Yeah.
you're just like totally, totally open and totally ready,
Mm,
totally mature for it, So yeah.
yeah. It feels like a blessed life since meeting Guru for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you look really, really blessed. So it's whatever you're doing, sadhana-wise, it's working. Yeah.
Same.
It's
Same, Lars.
powerful that you're like in Sweden and doing this. It's really amazing. It's great.
Yeah,
Glory
it's
to you.
kind of funny.
Yeah.
Glory to you. Super nice to see you. And we
Yeah.
are like hoping to get back to Norway this summer also. So if we don't see
Yeah.
you in
Have you
we'll
talked
see
to
you.
each other maybe or?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. It
But
seems
you want
kind
to
of
come? If you want to come, like we should just talk to him about that
mhm.
for
Yeah,
sure.
because it was fun last year.
It
So,
was, yeah, great.
yeah.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Well, thank you. I'll send you the link for the episode when I post it next week. So
Great. Thank you so much.
it's
I hope you're
fun.
happy with what we did today.
Super
I
happy.
just talked away. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
but it's great
Okay.
and people will love it. And big hugs and hugs to the girls, all three of them.
And big hug to Mr. Jalonen.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
great.
So
Okay.
happy
Take care.
Christmas. Good Yule.
Ja, god jul till dig.
Tusen tack.
You speak Swedish. You learn. Do you go to a course or something?
Yeah, actually, I did it for 3 months. I just quit today, actually. I took a break, but I did 3 months of Swedish.
Wow,
So,
that's amazing. You're
yeah.
amazing. You're real Shakti. Very impressed.
Tack så jättemycket.
Wow, cool. Okay.
Okej, hej då.
Hej då, tjenare, tjenare.
Peace.